rent a lovely house in Istanbul. And he said, do you want to make a movie about Margaret Moth? And I read it, and within 90 seconds I responded, yes, I will find the money, I will find producers, this movie has to be made. I didn't ever think about directing it for a couple of weeks after that, but in that moment, the spirit of Margaret compelled me. It was totally like an exorcist moment. And yeah, I just died into that decision, and everybody came on board. Jeff being one of the most important contributors, because he was so raw and so honest and so, you know, telling his story. And Yashinka, the other lover, Steph, Christian. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No,
go.
Please ramble away. No, the interviews are amazing, and having been an archivist myself, I loved all the footage, and obviously through CNN you got most of that, or through other sources as well.
Actually it was a lot of things. Unfortunately, that in those days they shot on like big beta tapes, right, and they couldn't store them all, so all the rough footage destroyed, gone. And furthermore, camera people didn't get credit, so it was extremely difficult. I tried to do due diligence and lock conflicts and happenings down to times where Margaret was in the country from her press passes and anecdotally and whatnot, but it was really hard. So there is a lot of other people's stock footage in this. It just had to be. In order to give you an entertaining experience, yeah, you're going to have to employ everything you can. That's just the truth.
But one of the unique aspects of this is the recreation that you did, which you could have done in a million different ways. I think that's the first time that I've ever seen that kind of modeling.
Yeah, diorama. It's so old that it's new again, but if you grew up in the 60s and 70s, you remember diorama, right? We all grew up with Thunderbirds and all that stuff first time. And so it wasn't my idea, but the minute I heard, I went, oh, yeah, I get that, because it's what we did as play, also making dioramas. So Weta Workshop came on board, the amazing Ben Nilsson, and somebody was like, no, don't use those tacky Dacron plumes of smoke, we'll just put it in CGI. I was like, we were like, we love it, stick him in, that person, because anything analog just moves you on a cellular level, right? And for me, at least so far, and hopefully never, CGI doesn't work. You know, it doesn't.
You're like the anti-AI
Well, you want to be
director.
Trust me, I use it all the time as research, but I don't want that. I want to feel it, and it means doing it old school.
Yeah, it was quite emotive. Why don't we just turn it to the audience while we have time? Yes, it's hard to see up here because.
I remember that Jeff would always talk about Margaret's cats in Istanbul, and I saw footage with like her with dogs a lot in here. I wonder if there's anything else that came up for you that are like tidbits that just didn't fit into the storyline that you would like to talk about. You're talking
about the cats, right?
Yes, all the cats.
There's a cat in every shot of the diorama as a tribute to Margaret. We couldn't get the cats in because you can't get a full life into 90 minutes. You just, or 84 minutes. You just can't. And the cat story sort of doesn't go anywhere. Oh, she loves cats. And? But I mean, she was an insane. We also didn't talk about her food habits. You know, like she was a vegetarian her whole life, grew up next to an abattoir, which is a slaughterhouse. So many things, fascinating things about Margaret. I couldn't get into this story. It also depended, you needed a narrator who's kind of sexy, makes you lean in, because there were some people who were saying very interesting things in a not very interesting way, and it was like, sorry, I cannot bore these people. So, yeah.
we get the sense of her personality regardless.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think we heard Margaret's voice before the injuries, or if we did, it was very minimal. Was that a choice or just?
I'm sorry, before? It didn't exist. There wasn't, remember, there weren't, video didn't exist when Margaret was up and coming. There was film, and she would steal film from art school, or She wasn't averse to stealing generally, actually, or from work, because she worked for Television New Zealand in the early days in the 70s, but you couldn't afford a sound person, so there was only that bit of her jumping out of the hot air balloon, right? And I thought we should have had subtitles because it's so Kiwi that you almost, could you understand that?
Yeah.
You could? Oh, I love it. Oh, half of you know you, Margaret. Anyway.
Did that answer your question?
I would have put everything that I could find on Margaret, and I did. There was nothing that we left on. She's always behind the camera, that's the problem. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Nobody knows why she ended up in Houston. She was just looking for a job. She absconded from New Zealand after stealing $10,000, taking out the very first credit card. She maxed it out and left the country. Allegedly, she had a big party with her friends in Auckland before she took off, but I could never find anybody to corroborate these things. But she was afraid to ever come back. So I think the money thing was true. But, so she didn't come back until her mother was on her deathbed. And she was afraid of it. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, I especially love the fact that I make a lot of biographical documentaries, and the fact that the introduction of the family of origin was so late in the game. Like, you've gotten to know her as her own self for, you know, a good hour, I think, before you even...
Yeah, well, she was a mystery to me, honestly. I didn't click onto her, what made her that way. And there was physical horrible discipline, but there was no sexual abuse. You would think there is with those horrible pictures, you know, kids under the stairs and everything. I could never find any evidence that brothers and sisters never said that, Margaret never said it. I think it was just an emotional neglect that made them very, very siloed off. All those kids have grown up to be not very close, even today. And I find them all wonderful. But they explained Margaret to me just by being in the same room. Because you saw them, they just laugh about everything, right? It was hard to get them to feel, they didn't feel sorry for themselves. Oh yeah, we used to get beaten up all the time. It's like, you know, that's not normal, right? You're like, no, yeah, I suppose it's not, but yeah, but hit all the time. That's how they were.
Yes, sir, back there.
Did you say one of the subjects of the film died recently?
Jeff, you're sitting with his family there. Jeff died suddenly and to me shockingly right before Christmas. And I think his little body just couldn't take it anymore. He didn't get to see the film, but I spoke to him some hours before he passed away and was telling him all the dumb things he says and he was laughing. He was just really looking forward to being here. And so I hope that's really comforting to all of us to know that he didn't take himself out. You know, I think his body just kind of went sayonara. My job's done. Good night, everybody. Try the meal. That's Jeff.
Yes, sir.
The sound, yes. You know, there's some things I'm sitting back there going, oh God, you can't hear the clock. So I knew I should have pushed that a little harder because sometimes it's a bit restrained. There was some texture in there that I felt was missing, and it's not because the sound isn't good enough here. We just needed to crank it up a little. But sound is so important for putting people, putting your mind and body in a state. You know what I mean? So sometimes there'll be music stings or sounds which are a little bit of a misdirect. For example, you hear, I say to Jeff, did you ever dream anything could go wrong? He says, no, I thought you'd be indestructible. And then we go to the scene where she's filming the kids in Iraq. And there's a sort of slightly ominous sound. And because you're expecting that to go wrong immediately, but it goes wrong in a very interesting way. So it's not tricking you, but we're pushing you somewhere and then confounding your expectation. So also with the diorama, we tried to make it quite subterranean, or submarine actually, and really compress the experience, so make it claustrophobic for you. For you. You can do things subconscious. You can enhance or manipulate people's experience, and I try not to do it in a really in an abusive way. Do you know what I mean? But to enhance your experience as you go through a somatic ride, hopefully.